Under the brilliant sunlight, the sword garden appeared like a sacred sanctuary. This was where those who contributed to the Runcandel family's prosperity were allowed to plant their swords, transforming the garden into a symbol of each family member's dreams and honor. Countless magnificent, gleaming greatswords were plunged deep into the lush green grass, each blade a story of glory. Standing before that magnificent sight, Jin was lost in thought. There was a time when his greatest dream was to die and leave his sword here, but his past life was that of a weak, untalented, unleaderlike, and unintelligent person. He had naively believed that effort alone could change everything, but in the end it was all futile. Now, in this body, with a new life, his eyes gleamed with an unusual resolve. This time, it seemed that in this very worthless place, he would live a life worth living. The sky was gray, and white snowflakes gently fell, enveloping the cold expanse of the Runcandel mansion. Jin, in his thick coat, steadily climbed the stone steps, moving towards his waiting family. Standing high above, Chiron Runcandel and other core members of the family wore pitch-black ceremonial attire, exuding an aura of solemn majesty and coldness. Rosa Runcandel, with her long black hair and noble smile, gently spoke, breaking the silence. "It's been a long time, my youngest." Jin looked up, calmly replying, "Yes, mother." Just as she finished speaking, Rosa paused, her eyes showing a hint of surprise as she noticed a small creature perched on her son's shoulder. The black cat with large, round golden eyes was staring straight ahead. At the same moment, Chiron's sharp gaze narrowed, his powerful look focused on the tiny creature, and a tense silence enveloped the space.
Chiron spoke in a deep, powerful voice, his sharp eyes fixed on his youngest son who held a black cat on his shoulder. "Did you pick up a stray cat?" With a calm expression, Jin replied, his hand gently holding the small creature nuzzling against him. "I took it in, father." Chiron slightly raised an eyebrow, repeating Jin's words with a hint of amusement. "Not picked up, but took in. Very good, you speak appropriately." An invisible wave of crimson killing intent emanated from the patriarch, enveloping Jin like a powerful affirmation. Indeed, when a Runcandel acquires something, that is the proper answer. At this moment, Rosa Runcandel approached, gently kneeling on one knee before her son, her long black hair swaying slightly. "Son, what is its name?" "Its name is Butterfly Runcandel, mother." Jin's declaration stunned Rosa, her eyes widening in astonishment. Contrary to her shock, the small black cat settled comfortably in her arms, looking utterly content and pleased. The silence was broken by the enraged shout of one of Jin's older brothers. "What? Father, mother, even if he's young, this is unacceptable. Giving the Runcandel name to this lowly beast? Gilly, how did you raise our youngest? How dare you let a cat?" The governess named Gilly trembled and bowed her head. I apologize." "Enough." Chiron's voice resonated, not loud but powerful enough to silence all sound. The entire space fell silent. He turned to look at Jin, his eyes scrutinizing. "Youngest son, why did you give this cat the Runcandel surname?" Jin held his head high, placed a hand on his chest, and met his father's gaze, his voice firm and clear. "So I can take responsibility for it. It may only be an animal, but it is the first life I have taken in, so I believe its name should also carry a certain weight." At his feet, the small cat looked up at its owner with golden eyes, silently proving its existence.
Under the warm light, leaves gently rustled in the wind. Chiron stood with a dignified posture, his sharp eyes fixed on his youngest son. He spoke, his voice a blend of amusement and authority. "That's quite interesting. But tell me, youngest, do you understand the weight of the name Runcandel?" Jin, still holding the black cat in his arms, looked up at his father, his gaze unwavering. "Yes, I do," he continued, his voice resolute. "If anyone offends Butterfly, I will be the one to pay the price." Chiron's lips curled slightly, his iron-gloved hand subtly moving. "My youngest, it seems you have a talent for making enemies. Look at how your siblings are glaring at you." The eyes of the other siblings were indeed fixed on Jin, filled with hostility. Yet, Jin merely curved his lips into a faint smile. "It seems so. However, father, I will also have a talent for eliminating my enemies." A wide grin, reaching his ears, appeared on Chiron's face, a smile of pure delight and surprise. He turned to face his other children, his voice echoing with full authority. "This boy, you should be worried if you wish to challenge and deal with this insolent youngest brother." With that, Chiron turned and walked away, his black cloak billowing behind him, leaving a group of children with complex emotions staring intently at their youngest brother. 4 years passed, early summer of 1794. Outside a magnificent mansion, a voice called out, "Young master." Jin, now a 14-year-old youth, stood in a neat training outfit, his hands already gloved in iron and a sword at his hip. The childishness of yesteryear had given way to the composure and sharpness of an aspiring knight. In the training room, an instructor said to Jin, "We will conclude young Master Jin's training session here. You've worked hard." Jin frowned slightly and replied, "So we'll only train in the morning?"
Garen Altamir approached Jin, his familiar squinted smile on his face. "Isn't Lady Luna supposed to have training today? Have you forgotten?" Jin paused for a moment, his gaze sweeping across the space before he replied, "Ah, that's right, she does. In that case, I'll go grab something to eat." With that, he picked up a wooden sword leaning nearby. "Will you be eating with the trainees again today?" Garen asked with a hint of concern. "It seems Lady Rosa is quite—" Jin coldly cut him off. "It's fine, I don't want to have a staring contest with my siblings while eating." "I understand, I will inform the lady." Garen bowed in compliance. Jin quietly found a corner seat on the stone steps, separate from the dining hall's noise where other trainees queued for food. Soon after, Bellop Schmitz, another trainee with golden hair, excitedly brought a full tray of food to him. "Young master, I've brought your food." "Ah, thank you, Bellop." Jin nodded slightly. "It's nothing, young master," Bellop replied with a bright smile. Jin watched his companion sit down beside him. Bellop Schmitz, 13 years old, commoner. In Jin's memory, this boy would fall behind in training, eventually be deemed unqualified and be expelled. While Jin was still lost in thought, Bellop happily munched on his food. Jin suddenly spoke up. "Is it good?" Bellop startled, his mouth still full of food, and asked back blankly, "Huh? What?" The boy quickly swallowed and replied enthusiastically, gesturing wildly with both hands. "Of course it is! I'm always grateful to the Runcandel family for letting me eat such delicious meat, and for the young master always sharing his meat with me." "Stop it," Jin interrupted, a slight look of annoyance on his face. "You said the exact same thing yesterday. Have you memorized it or something?" Bellop scratched his head, smiling awkwardly. Silence enveloped them for a moment before Jin spoke again in a more serious tone. "Bellop, you need to act more wisely. It's precisely because you always babble like that that others look down on you." Jin's words were like a cold splash of water. Bellop froze, his spoon halting in midair, and he stammered back with an expression of extreme bewilderment. Is that so?"
Noticing his companion's despondency, Jin Runcandel spoke with a resolute and encouraging voice. "That's right, straighten your shoulders and be a little more confident. You must be confident that you are also a cadet of the Runcandel Guardian Knights. Becoming a Runcandel cadet is not an easy feat. No matter how bad your grades are, you are still better than other 13-year-olds outside, understand?" Bellop Schmitz lowered his head, mumbling self-consciously, "But my grades are too bad. I haven't even achieved 1 star yet." He timidly replied with a faint yes to Jin's encouragement. Jin quietly observed his companion. His character is truly pure. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say he might have been abandoned by his own family. In Jin's eyes, Bellop appeared so innocent, idly gnawing on his fork. However, Jin's thoughts quickly plunged into a dark, blood-soaked memory. But how could such a pure person, one taught the swordsmanship of House Heron, after becoming the loyal dog of the Bement Empire, walk the path of a ruthless murderer? Memories of Bellop in blood-stained armor, standing amidst the fiery battlefield of his previous life, suddenly flooded back. When I heard this guy became a royal guard, I was shocked. And when I heard he committed suicide, I was very sad. If I just left Bellop alone. Breaking free from his thoughts, Jin quietly picked up a piece of meat from his tray and placed it on Bellop. Bellop gasped in surprise. "Oh, young master? I'm not hungry. You eat it for me," Jin replied calmly. Bellop's eyes welled with gratitude and astonishment, and he stammered, "Young master." Jin looked directly at his friend, a steely resolve forming in his heart. "This time, I will ensure you are not eliminated and expelled, for living one unfortunate life and dying once is already too much." The two sat side by side, Bellop happily holding his fork with the meat he had just received, while a discreet and confident smile formed on Jin's lips. A moment later, striding alone down the deserted corridor, Jin murmured to himself, re-evaluating his abilities. Shadow energy release 2-star. Mana 4-star. Swordsmanship 2-star.
Jin mused as warm light enveloped him, his eyes glinting with determination. Everything is progressing well. At this rate, I'll achieve 3-star swordsmanship in just 2 more years. But before that, in the vast, brightly lit training hall, Luna Runcandel stood, her long platinum hair neatly tied. She rested the tip of her wooden sword on the floor, her posture both majestic and graceful. Looking at her young brother, she spoke in a soft yet powerful voice. "My dearest brother, today's training will be similar to yesterday's. However, you will have to defend yourself against this familiar exercise in a different way." Jin stood opposite, his hand also tightly gripping a wooden sword, nodding seriously. "I understand, big sister." A mysterious smile briefly appeared on Luna's lips. "Brother, mind's eye," she said, her tone deepening. The surrounding space suddenly plunged into darkness, and mystical blue energy currents began to swirl around them. "Look with your mind's eye." Jin closed his eyes, trying to focus amidst the strange space. He clasped his hands tightly in front of his chest, muttering to himself with iron determination, "It seems I have to overcome this training I've never heard of."